Welcome to Key Tech. Please describe this channel if you are interested in today's video. While American politicians are still cheering for the new round of tariff policies, a set of data from the General Administration of Customs of China has silenced Washington. The U.S. exports to China have fallen precipitously, cotton has plummeted by 80%, large displacement costs have been halved by 70%, and semiconductor equipment imports have returned to zero. This trade game, which the U.S. media calls precision war under Eastern wisdom, is reshaping the global industrial chain. 1. Precision explosion of trade data. The core of China's countermeasure this time lies in structural strikes. According to customs data, China's imports from the United States fell by 8.4% year-on-year in January-February 2025, of which agricultural products were the first to bear the brunt. U.S. cotton exports to China fell to the lowest value since records began in 1994, and Brazil seized 70% of soybean imports. The energy field is more strategic, with U.S. liquefied natural gas (LNG) exports to China returning to zero for 42 consecutive days, and the China-Russia Arctic LNG 2 project was put into production ahead of schedule, which completely shook the foundation of U.S. energy hegemony. The countermeasures of the semiconductor industry are more symbolic. In the second week of March, China's imports of semiconductor manufacturing equipment from the United States plummeted to zero, just 18 months after ASML lifted the ban on exports to China. Boston Consulting Group analysis pointed out that this vacuum is accelerating the verification of Chinese domestic equipment, and the number of bids for North Huawei's etching machines has surged by 215% in 3 months. In response, some U.S. media lamented China's counterattack caught the United States off guard. 2. The resilience code of alternative networks. China's counterattack is by no means an isolated action, but the implementation of a set of systematic alternative solutions. In the first 2 months of 2025, China-Brazil soybean trade volume increased by 27% year-on-year, driving 130,000 hectares of new arable land in Mato Grosso, Brazil. The oil volume of the China-Russia crude oil pipeline increased to 800,000 barrels per day, and Russia's exports to China accounted for 35%. More importantly, the proportion of Belt and Road countries in China's import sources of mechanical and electrical products exceeded 60%, forming a gradual substitution for U.S. technology products. This substitution capability stems from deep-level reforms. Strategic commodity, centralized procurement management measures implemented in 2024 will promote central enterprises, such as COFCO and Minmetals, to form 14 procurement alliances and implement dynamic, hierarchical management of 87 suppliers around the world. The Peterson Institute report stated, China has established a dual regulatory mechanism of market-plus administration, and this composite arsenal far exceeds the traditional WTO framework. 3. The underlying logic of industrial game. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's $5.8 billion cotton farmer subsidy exposed its strategic weakness. The American Cotton Association estimates that losing the Chinese market will lead to the permanent closure of 23% of the industry's production capacity. The automotive sector is even more severe. General Motors was forced to cut 40% of the electric pickup truck production capacity of its Texas plant. CEO Mary Barra said frankly, the Chinese market is a test field for technology iteration, not a simple sales market. The essence of this game is a struggle for dominance in the industrial chain. China has implemented reserve controls on 21 rare metals, such as gallium and germanium, and new energy materials, such as nickel and cobalt, have been included in export quota management. A Russian think tank simulation shows that 65% of the raw materials of the U.S. semiconductor industry and 72% of the intermediate products of new energy batteries still rely on China. This structural dependence makes the United States passive in negotiations. 4. The China formula of rule reconstruction. China's countermeasures not only stay at the commodity level, but also reshape trade rules. 1,200 U.S. pork companies were removed from the whitelist due to substandard biosafety certification, but Brazil's JBS Group received an additional quota of 500,000 tons, and its stock price soared 11% in a single day. This innovative use of compliance barriers marks China's shift from passive acceptance to active setting. The Brookings Institution report warned, China is transforming its market advantages into geopolitical influence, which is a new paradigm of economic games in the 21st century. When the United States tried to build a wall with tariffs, China has deeply bound the 1.4 billion population market with 60% of the world's resource production areas through mechanisms such as RCEP and BRICS expansion. From cotton to chips, from natural gases to strategic metals, the essence of this trade game is the struggle for rulemaking power. When the Wall Street Journal used precision warfare to describe China's strategy, the global business community suddenly discovered that the countermeasures under the wisdom of the East have long surpassed the competition of tariff numbers, but are the full release of systemic competitive advantages. When the U.S. cotton exports to China plummeted by 80% and the import of semiconductor equipment returned to zero, the Sino-Russian Arctic LNG project was put into production ahead of schedule, tearing open the gap in energy hegemony, and Brazilian soybeans and Russian crude oil are reconstructing the global supply chain. This game, which the U.S. media called precision warfare of Oriental wisdom, used 14 Central Enterprise Procurement Alliances and 21 rare metal controls to deeply bind the 1.4 billion market with 60% of global resources, making Washington suddenly understand that the tariff wall has failed, and the right to make rules is the future battlefield.